Right. What is going on?
We made it.
Vicky, how are you doing?
I'm doing
Holy
good,
shit.
man. You?
I am great. I am great. Thank you so much, man. It's been quite a while. I've had like different times where things have kind of fallen through, and then other interviews have fallen out. But you know what? Most importantly, we have gotten this figured out, and we are here today. And thank you so much for the time. This is
Oh, dude,
sick.
I'm so stoked. Thank you so much. It's tough sometimes, right? But I was like, fuck it, we're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And it's just it's so wild with like different things too, and just having work on top of all this other boring shit.
yeah.
How life tries to get in the way of our fun. But I tell you, for as busy as you guys are, especially with doing different movie reviews and doing different things, even with your man there and having like movie Mondays and having trivia nights, and you stay like on top of just doing shit constantly, and it's absolutely inspiring, especially for anybody who's watching and anybody who keeps in contact with your content. And it's like you got a lot going on for sure.
I try my best to stay busy. Honestly, it's probably like my biggest downfall too. It's like, yo, take the time to relax sometimes.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Well, I am really excited once again, to say to be able to be here today, and to dig into the awesome things. And my thing, like in writing this, I kind of wanted it to be because I have watched a lot of your interviews. I've looked into a lot of where your work is coming from, kind of your background, but I also wanted this to be an opportunity as well, for other people who might not be familiar and, be able to check out the shop and check out, some of your story as well. So,
Awesome.
kind of just touching even on film, initially, as a young lady, where, do these interests develop, and what are kind of things that you're seeing maybe at a young age, maybe that might not have been little kid movies even.
Well, it's kind of crazy because again, like I have done a couple of interviews and it's almost like child, I don't want to say child trauma or whatever, but like, things get buried in your brain and it all comes back. Anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I kept remembering the scene that I used to watch in a movie way long ago. And there's this like sea monster coming out of the tub. And I was like, oh my God, Saturday the 14th, right? So
Oh shit.
I saw that when I was like
Okay.
4 or 5, like,
Oh my
um,
God.
yeah, but that was a classic, right? It's like you got introduced to all the monsters, but in a funny way.
Yeah.
Um, of course,
Holy
like the
shit.
making of Thriller, like I watched that on repeat growing up.
Oh man.
Yeah, and Evil Dead, I was lucky enough to see that super young. It was pure accident at some kid's house, and I was like, that VHS looks sick. Let's put it on. And the kids are all like traumatized. I was like the oldest one that was like, can we rewind that pencil scene? Like, yeah, yeah.
I mean, was there like adjacent moments, and I kind of go through this just even from something today. I was watching with my daughter the first Indiana Jones movie, and I
Ooh.
completely forget the scene at the end when everybody's like melting and the lasers are going through people and the dude's face is melting. I was like, holy shit. She's pretty
You're like,
small. So like I looked over and she's just like wide-eyed, like, whoa, never seen anything like that. Like
oh,
this the
oh.
things come like, to come to mind as far as maybe movies that weren't even supposed to be horror.
Temple of Doom. I always loved that one growing up, and that
Mm.
had like the eyeball soup in it. It was a bit more
Yeah.
gruesome. Also freaking Summer School, right? Summer School is more of a comedy, but
Okay.
those dudes that were like, I love horror, they make that like haunted house and they're like pulling out their tongue. I was lucky, like my sister's like 7 years older than me, so she
Okay.
would be renting movies and I'd be like, can I watch?
That's
Yeah.
funny. My sister was the same. She's 6 years older, and that was like an earlier memory too. Was like she had rented Scream, and
Yeah.
I wasn't like supposed to be watching any of that stuff, and she just had the VHS, and I don't know where. Maybe my mom was at the store, and I'm like, oh, I'm watching this, and it just falls downhill from there.
Exactly. It's like, I'm sorry, but bye now. I want all of this.
Now, you mentioning like, with Evil Dead and everything, was that something kind of maybe even like subconsciously where you start seeing things of like practical effects or, special makeup and kind of not necessarily an interest developing, but, how are they doing that?
Absolutely. And like it was a big thing with, that movie. The way I always looked at it, and I think Savini touched upon this too, makeup effects is like magic. in a way, right? So I was one of those nerds growing up who was like, "Oh, want to watch my magic show, guys?" So I think it just kind of intertwined where you're like, I want to like be able to fool people with like makeup effects, you know? And again, the making of Thriller, if you actually watch the movie, it's basically him in the chair and you get to see the whole thing getting done, including the zombies, including the werewolf kind of thing. So yeah, it
That's
really
so
piques
cool.
my interest, you know?
There was like a little snippet, I think, even on like a VHS version of the video or something, where it was a lot of behind the scenes. I don't necessarily remember like a whole like sit through of it, but I feel like there was like a little clip that was at the end that kind of went through some of like the making and makeup effects and all that.
Yeah, man, it's so good.
It's
I know
now,
people
I
hate
mean,
MJ. I'm like, come on, come on.
you have a hard time. I mean, especially with that, and it's like, yeah, maybe in the later years, like some certainly, like kind of creepy instances, and himself kind of looking like a mask,
Yeah.
eternally. But okay, so with that,
Mhm.
with like makeups and with different things younger. What about with Halloween? How was that for you guys? Did you have fun with that, and did you have different things where maybe even having those interests, you're like, you know what? This makeup doesn't quite look right. I'm going to add a couple of things. Or were you very much costume oriented?
Um, so like growing up, I was always the person who was like, I want to be a professional Halloween decorator, and my mom's like, that's not a thing. And I'm like, I'm sure it's a thing. It's going to be a thing. So like I used to love just decking out our yard with like stuff we had around the house. Like I was more of like one of these like DIY people. But when it came to like, I don't know, I turned 18, I still went out for Halloween. I'm super short. I get away with it. And it was when I had like my Myers jumpsuit. And then I was just Michael Myers constantly. Like I still dress as Michael Myers on Halloween. It's like I'll
Okay.
have like my crazy 80s gold pants underneath, but I'm always like, ooh, I'm spooky. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Forever young,
I
man.
always, yeah, I mean, and you try to have that fun too. And it's like, even with like myself having kids and having that opportunity of throwing something on, like my wife will look at me and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, hey, man, I have a second life here to having some fun on Halloween. I'm going to take it up for sure.
Legit.
I
Yeah. To
love
me,
that.
like Halloween's like a sacred day. It's like let me watch all my favorite movies, let me carve some pumpkins, blast like spooky, scary skeletons in the Monster Mash on repeat until
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Ugh," and I'm like, too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have particular watches that are something that you kind of routinely watch every year, or is it something that you like to keep a mix?
Yeah, man, I'm a nerd like that. It's always I love watching The Thing. I love watching Demons, the
Mm.
Argento, or sorry, Bava, whatever. All the same.
Hmm.
All those Italians. Frickin' Halloween 1 and 2. Those are like my four
Okay.
go-tos. If I have enough time, Maniac gets slipped in there, but like
Oh, okay.
they make me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
For whatever reason, it's like the Halloweens. The Lady in White. Have you ever watched that?
Oh my goodness, yeah, I have that on DVD. That's a
That's
classic.
another one that like was kind of introduced to me a little bit later and
Mhm.
has that very even fall. It doesn't have to be about Halloween, but just
Mhm.
everything about the fall is like encaptured in that movie, and that's another one that I kind of feel like gets pulled out every once in a while too, for sure.
Nice.
Lots of fun with that. When you're introduced to horror, and you're kind of initially seeing these like things, is there that moment where some of us fall into where it's like, oh, what more extreme can I find? Or can I, like find these things maybe when the internet, starts coming around and, there's these lists online, and did that bring you to places where it was a little too far and you're like, no, I'm gonna rewind back a little bit.
I discovered that stuff. My boyfriend at the time in high school was really big into computers and he got on Demonoid. And Demonoid was a fantastic torrent site. The thing was, they just had so much obscure stuff. We're talking Japanese, we're talking Italian, we're talking Spanish films. I went down this wormhole. Like I was watching Sallow when I was in like grade seven, you
Uh,
know, like you
oh
just
man.
go into this like and you're always like, what's next? Traces of death. What's next? Faces of death. Like I love that. But I remember what hit me was freaking it was this movie that I wish I still owned. I lent it to some guy. Dude, if you're watching, give it back. Philosophy of a Knife. That movie, I
Oh
remember
man.
getting like, I was like, just these teeth scenes, and they're like ripping it and eyeballs. I was like, like, and it's like war too. War always seems to get like a bit more under my skin, like war torture
Mhm.
and stuff. Ugh, I don't know. Too real.
Yeah, that like that, and you mentioned Salo
Hmm.
or even like Men Behind the Sun. That was another movie that I
Ooh.
hadn't seen until a little bit. Have you ever seen that?
I have not. That's going on my movie Monday, dude.
Oh
Thank you.
no.
You're like, don't do
God damn
it.
it. Well, it just kind of becomes one of those things. I think, especially, you touching on the whole war aspect. That's where, with like Salo and with, some of the other movies that kind of come out of that. Men Behind the Sun was another thing too. And I'm trying to think of the particulars. It's been so long since I saw it, and I didn't have any other interest in watching it. I know a lot of people, like appreciate it and like it for those kinds of things, or like August Underground's Mortem. Have you ever seen
It's on my
those?
list. I was trying to find it this morning, but like I'm gonna have to dig. It's not easy to find.
I I once, it was years ago, I was probably in high school and bought it on DVD, and it was like $68 or some shit, $78, and I sold it like that same week because I was like,
No.
I
You're like, this
can't.
shit's haunted.
Yeah, it's like this is too much.
Oh my Lord.
But and I think it's fun though, like that whole exploration, especially being young, and then you kind of find yourself where all of a sudden you have friends who are like, oh, look at this, and it's like actually real shit, and I'm like, cut me out, man. Like
That's
I'm
it.
not there. Like I'm excited for effects and I'm excited for horror, but when shit's real or things are getting like that close, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll rewind back a little bit to some of the haunted and the kind of cheesier shit for sure.
Well, it's like you hit a point too, like especially in makeup effects, where like it was like a part of our, it was a part of our schooling to be like, yo, like build yourself up a booklet of
Hmm.
stuff that you want to like reference to. Like we would go out, get way too drunk, have bruises, and we're like, yo, take a picture. It's the next color, like somebody like bust their arm. It's like we had all this like silly stuff like that. But like again, you could go down a dark wormhole, like,
Yeah, for sure, for
yeah.
sure. Oh yeah, I mean, did you see one of the movies Effects? Have you ever heard of that? That Tom Savini was a part of, and I think it was around like the time that Dawn of the Dead was all being
Yeah.
made. Vinegar Syndrome just put it out.
Oh, I didn't see that, but I think it's still streaming on Tubi right now. Has like a yellow
Oh
cover,
shit,
I
really?
think. Yeah. Yeah. I saw like half of it. I wasn't paying too much attention. So should I revisit it? Have you seen the full thing?
I hadn't seen it. It was actually
Ooh.
something where I just recently saw that they had posted up on Vinegar Syndrome, and I was like, oh, I've never had the opportunity. I didn't know that it was like streaming anywhere, but
Mhm.
I'll probably stream it first just to see, because every once in a while you buy shit and you're like, fuck,
Yeah.
that was $50 for this thing and it sucks.
Pop it up next.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Now, what about your relationship within like local theaters or video rentals? Was either one of those closer to you, and maybe some personal memories that you have in these places?
I was never a massive theater person,
Okay.
but I was way bigger on renting like
Mhm.
VHSs and renting DVDs. It was a big thing. Like we would literally like finish supper and it was like, okay, let's go. And there was like this ghetto one by our house called Video Roma. So it was like no name. And they had this, I remember they had like this giant like playground type thing in the middle. I was probably too old to use it, but like spinning around in circles, so fun, right? You got like popcorn coming out of your mouth and you're like, whoa! And then you're like running down the horror aisle and like picking whatever you want. I love that shit. Like, I wish they still
Damn.
had them.
I- I've Was that like a chain, or was that just like a local like mom and pop like spot?
It was like one of these like little mom and pop type places. And I remember it was near my pop's house. So it was like walking distance. And like there weren't many movies. It wasn't like a blockbuster. And I found always the smaller chains to have like the most obscure stuff, eh? Like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. There's
yeah.
so many times. Like I remember. Oh my God, what was the fucking movie now? There was a local spot around us, and like you're saying, like it was like they would have the bigger, brand new things that came out, but then there would be like no in between. It would be the absolute like most obscure thing that you were like, well, when the fuck did this even come out? I've never even heard of this. It's
Yeah.
like Yeah, so you'd want to check out those spots because they would end up kind of showing you something where most people weren't giving a shit. But if you were, like you or I, and really trying to dig into some nitty and gritty, like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
man, I'm trying to think. I ended up buying the DVD copy of whatever the shop was too, and I can't think of what the fucking movie was. Anyway,
ooh,
I'll think of it,
it'll
but
come back.
it'll come back for sure.
Yeah.
Three scenes. So, and
Ooh.
let's even say within horror or even outside of it that maybe it surprised you. Three scenes that are just forever ingrained in your brain, and they're maybe disgusting, hilarious, intriguing. Maybe it made you wonder how they pulled off the effect even.
Okay, well, number one, Halloween one, when he literally is lying down and sits up, that's ingrained in my mind. That's like the biggest
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
boner for me. I'm like, that is so good. I love that scene forever. And like, I love that film. Like, that's definitely my number one. Um,
Awesome.
I was saying philosophy of knife. Oh man, dude, like that scene stuck to me. I'm like, I never want to get my eyeballs pulled out or my teeth. Like,
Oh,
if any of you psychopaths are watching, just don't do it. Go for other things. Pull off my ear. It's a better time. Um, like,
still sounds terrible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Other than that,
Jesus.
is that movie Trauma? Like right away, it's like a dude porking a baby, and you're like, it's pretty intense. Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. Have you seen that movie Trauma? It's not the Argento. It's a
Oh yeah,
Spanish
that's the only
horror.
one I know of.
Yeah. Ooh, dude, dude, this movie is like next level traumatizing, but like really well done too. It's a bunch of girls that are like trying to, I don't know, like do a vacation and like these slime balls kind of see them. And like the main slime ball dude basically did messed up stuff when he was younger and he's still a bad dude. It's good. It's really good.
What?
It's dark.
So is that like a different name, or is it? It's not the Serbian film, right?
No, I haven't even seen that one. I
Uh,
know everyone talks
Me
about
either.
it. I need to. I'm like, I got to.
Yeah.
I just
You
gotta
know,
have like a
I
grossed
think,
out day, you know?
yeah. And I understand, and like I can't like talk negatively toward it, but it's like anytime that people bring up stuff with like kids, I'm just like, there's so many other movies even on my shelf that I haven't been able to even watch yet, to where I'm like, I can't watch that. I just don't have fully the interest or even the stomach. It's like, oh my. But this is Trauma. Is it like a newer movie, or is it 80s, 90s?
2000s, I want to say. I want to say 2000s. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It
Shit.
was
No, I
really
haven't even heard
good.
of it.
Yeah.
Where did you find that at?
Literally just freaking, it was on Tubi for a while, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally watch this. And like, you about to pass on both of those. It's
Yeah.
it's it's one of those moments where it's like you pop on a film and like it was the caption that got me. And then one of my buddies kind of DM'd me like, good luck watching it. And I was like, what do you mean? It can't be that bad. But it's rough. It's just I love a good movie that touches on like that realism point. Just like Be My Cat, a film for Anne, that that movie ended, dude, and I was like, I was alone too, home alone, like I live in the woods. I was like, I need a break. Like, put on something
Oh.
Disney, fuck. I'm like,
I've never even heard of that. What is
uh,
that?
so that one's about this dude who's making a movie for Anne Heche to star in. I think it's Anne Heche, one of those Annes.
Sure.
Anyways, freaking trying to get her to be like the main star on this thing. So he ends up hiring in these two girls who kind of like look like her, and it's all firsthand kind of thing. He's like, "Hi, I am making a film, and like we're going to go through the movements," and he's like doing it all, and he's basically like drugging them. And like, look how real this looks. Isn't this great? It's like dressing her as a cat as she's passed out, shoving her under the stairs, going to get like another girl to be like the actress to test out other scenes. And the whole thing is like the end. He's like, great, I'm sending this film to her. And it's like, whoa, you like, good luck, Anne. Like, she gets to
Holy
watch the
moly.
whole thing. Yeah, like wonderfully done. Like,
That was
probably on no
that
budget.
was on Tubi?
That was also on Tubi for a while. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit, man.
Uh,
And it's funny too because like there's so many things that I have recently like discovered on Tubi where I'm like, holy shit, like why did like
right.
it kind of reminds me of that old video shop, where I'm like, so many people are sitting here talking about whatever fucking Judge Judy episodes are on here, and I'm like, look at these awesome horror movies. Shit, you're missing the real
Absolutely.
content.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't know about you, but I have Paramount, I have Disney, Crave. We have like a bunch of them. But the best
Mhm.
stuff is always Tubi, and it's
I feel
free.
like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane. What a, you know, I would say what a shame, but it's a major thumbs up for us. You know, for the ones that are looking for it and actually finding this shit. Somebody's looking
Absolutely.
out for us. You know,
Yeah.
it's I
And
mean
I find
it's
it
even like
helps so
weird.
much too.
Go
Like
ahead.
kind of like you were saying, like you're not going to buy a movie that you're not completely in love with,
Hmm.
you know? I feel that way too.
Yeah.
And Tubi's been good for that. I'm like, shit, next time I'm at a convention, I'm getting that, you know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I mean, as far as like, what about irrational fear? You know, horror is kind of developed for us to, you know, maybe fall into thinking of being scared of the water or being, you know, scared of a big man. But is there anything, you know, to where it has been so ridiculous over the years and just has stuck in the back of your head and you're like, this wouldn't happen, but I saw this movie and now I can never stop thinking of it.
Oof. Was it Saw 2 where she ends up being thrown into that freaking thing of needles? I hate needles.
Oh,
Like,
man.
don't take me for
Yeah.
blood tests. I don't like them. But ugh,
Yeah.
that was
Shit.
always like, oh, no.
You know, as much as I can't say I don't love those movies because like there's plenty of times that you're squirming and it just makes you so uncomfortable. But there are like really effective kills or tortures that happen in those movies where anybody's watching.
Well, there's like
That one in particular.
17 of them now, right? Like there's so
Yeah,
many.
yeah,
I haven't seen them all.
yeah, yeah. You don't know where they're going or where they ended off, but you know it's always a good time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know even if like did you keep up on the Final Destination movies?
No, I think I watched the first and the second, and that's it.
Oh man, those are fun too. You know, just kind
Yeah?
of like a ridiculous time, but yeah, it's just always like you know, kind of peeking around and kind of wondering like, oh man, what's gonna happen and who's gonna, yeah, you know, just a little senseless. Maybe a day that you're really not trying to pay attention, but you look over and somebody's squished by glass, and you're like, oh shit, all right.
You know what? You're absolutely right that driving behind a car full of like trees has like that's
Oh,
ingrained in me. Like that too.
forever,
Switch lanes.
forever. Yeah. A lot of people talk, you know, like post memes and different things, and ordinarily those are cheesy, but that's the one I always see, and I'm like, fuck, it is true. I'm never driving behind that truck.
That's
It's not
it.
happening.
You know
Yep.
what's another
Jesus.
one that was awful? Do you remember Urban Legends?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
when the guy's siphoning, he has, and they're pouring the toxic stuff in his mouth, and he just starts foaming. I'm like, oh, that would suck. Like,
Was that in the first one?
it
I'm trying
was
to
in the
remember it
first
now.
one. Yeah, yeah. It was one of the girls' boyfriends who finds the dog also in the microwave. He then runs up to puke in the toilet, and they basically stick a funnel down his
Oh
mouth and start.
shit.
I was like, oh, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
It's you know, I mean, even for a side, you know, for us fans, like I feel like there's
what
always
up?
times where in conversation with other people, we're like, man, you know, I can't make a movie, but I'd love to just for this kill to happen, you know, just for
Hell yeah.
this thing to happen or this cool like effect or whatever. Like that's always it's been above me. I can't, you know, make movies by any means, but there's been some times where I'm like, fuck, that would be sweet.
Right? Absolutely.
What about a remake or even let's just say a
Oh.
sequel that you feel like is better than the original? What comes to mind there?
Better than the original Amityville Horror. I think they did a great job with the one with Ryan Reynolds. It was actually like it had some
Oh, the
jump
remake. Okay.
scares. Yeah, I think they did a
Hmm.
good job on that one.
Okay.
Um, the Evil Dead remake, I haven't seen the second one yet. No spoiling. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed that remake. Yeah.
The movie was awesome.
It was like a
I
fucking roller
absolutely
coaster. It's like, oh,
agree. I know. There there was so much of that to where like I think initially I was preparing myself to not like it. And I came out of that movie just in love with it. I mean, I felt like it was just very in line with all of the others and you know, also kind of being its own thing as well and having like the scenes toward the end of the raining blood and you know the chainsaw like right into her head and shit. I was just like, holy fuck, man!
so
Like
good.
they killed it. They killed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, within the new Evil Dead, is there anything to where like you're not wanting to see it in theater, or is it just something where you're just kind of waiting and you know, kind of waiting for it to come out to be able to like rent it?
I'm actually, I think right now Amazon has it, so I'll be able to just kind of get
Oh,
it off
okay.
of there. Yeah. I've just been planning
Okay.
for the right night. I'm one of these people, like Vertical Vic, I'm a good time. As soon as I sit down, slash, like, I like pass out. So it's like I gotta pick that like solid moment. That's why like half the time people are like, why is there people like screaming like they're being raped and it's like 6 a.m. And I'm like, well, I like watching horror in the morning. That way I don't fall asleep.
Jesus. Yeah, touche, touche. Okay. I mean, so within you kind of mentioned, touching on recently having your their movie Mondays, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while they kind of go over, to like different days, but
Yeah.
you do film reviews. And I mean, was this like a initially an opportunity as far as just digging into further things? I know you watch a lot of things on Tubi and kind of to develop that interest, but where did it come into as far as sitting down and actually, doing reviews of movies?
Well, I didn't have the balls to be on camera and do it. And I was like, you know what? It's COVID, and so many of us are stuck at home and having to watch stuff. And I was just like scrolling on my phone. I'm like, I'm not getting any like good suggestions on here. It's always the same shit. Same with certain Reddit places. Like everyone's just go watch, I don't know, like something popular. And I'm like, no, like I want to share that obscure shit with you guys. And
Mm-hmm.
here we are sitting at home anyways. So I just basically started doing it. And I was like, I want to be able to share as many weird finds and just stuff that like maybe I haven't seen before that I think you guys should see, spread the good word because there's so much garbage out there too.
I appreciate that. I mean, and in these watches, I kind of wanted to have a little fun with that and talk about a couple of subcategories of horror. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can think back to maybe the first that you've seen, but as well as the most recent that maybe you watched for a review or you watch with some friends or something. What comes to mind as far as a werewolf movie? What would be the most recent and maybe the first werewolf movie you ever saw?
So I've never been big into werewolves, but first one, obviously, I'm gonna have to say it, Michael Jackson's Thriller. I mean, he was kind of like a jaguar
Yeah.
werewolf of some sort. But, but recently, my dude, Bloody Effing Gore, was like, "Why haven't you seen American Werewolf in London yet?" And I was like, "Sorry." So
Oh
good.
shit,
It's
really?
such a great movie. I don't know why I waited so long. The effects are
Man.
phenomenal. Like, yeah.
That's a movie that like it makes it hard for anybody making like that type of movie after.
Oh yeah.
Like especially for it being as long ago as it was and Rick Baker and just like the work over everything and like that the director too. Oh my God, why can't I think of his name?
I'm having a
Um
brain fart anyways.
Holy shit. But he did like right before that, he done like comedy movies or like he done a movie right before called Schlock where it was about a Bigfoot in this like town chasing after this like seamlessly like it doesn't even exist type shit. And it was more of a comedy, but it was fucking awesome. I can't
Yeah.
believe I can't think of the director. I'll edit it in. You know what I'm saying? The magic of editing. Why not?
Why not? Flip it in.
Oh, yeah, there it is. No, what about a vampire movie? So maybe the first that you
Ooh.
remember and the most recent you've watched.
Again, vampires not big into, but
I agree on this
Nosferatu.
one. Okay.
Nosferatu's always scared
Oh,
the
okay.
shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even think it was probably I blame Are You Afraid of the Dark? Probably first. Do you remember that? Was that a
Oh,
TV
oh
series for
man.
you? Yeah?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one episode where they're all in a movie theater and basically the movie comes alive. And they redid the makeup so well and it was
So
terrifying.
awesome.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
And
I absolutely love that show.
so good. It was actually really good. I'm like, yo, make Are You Afraid of Dark? Make love to fucking Black Mirror and make that happen. You know?
Oh
Like,
God.
get those writers together. Like, make some spooky shit.
They still like even those original Are You Afraid of the Dark? I've never seen any of like the newer because I think they recently remade it or did something for Nickelodeon again.
Okay.
But those original, man, those were so fucking scary. And I've actually recently, kind of revisited the older Goosebumps. Did you ever watch that series
Hell
that came
yeah.
out?
Yeah. I got my
So
haunted
sick.
mask. He's like, that, there, there.
I know, dude. I'm so excited too. I was
Oh,
actually telling my daughter because I just showed her like last week, that episode, and I was like,
So
I am
exciting.
going to be interviewing somebody who makes that mask and who has that. She's like, oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. So we'll have to check that out later. Yeah, for sure, that mask. And something that was very funny revisiting those is are those episodes are very Canadian.
Oh,
Can you touch on this at all? They were filmed there or no?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Something about Canadian cinema, eh? Like, there's always like this vibe to it, and you're just like, what's happening? Like, it's pretty cheesy. Even,
Uh,
I mean, I think
uh,
Cronenberg's the only one who's kind of thrown us off. like,
okay.
yeah,
I,
but
it is great, but I think the thing that really like tipped me though was the accent, or just just the pronunciation of different words, where I was like, holy shit, these must have been like filmed or they were casted in Canada or something, because I was like, god damn, I
yeah,
never noticed when I was a kid, but now I hear it, I'm like, whoa, that is
yeah.
strong for sure.
I think it was even like Ryan Gosling, like young him in some of these episodes. It's like, get
Yeah,
out of here.
yeah.
Like, what happened?
Crazy, crazy. Love
Yeah.
it, love it. Well, what about a zombie movie? So we have a early and then
Ooh,
maybe a more recent,
early.
or I say early, maybe the first if you can remember, but we can
I
go
think
early.
that would have had to been Evil Dead, right? Because I was again very
Okay.
young when I
Yep.
saw that. And then newest, fuck, what did I just watch? Uh, you know what? I'm like, I watched a new one that was pretty good. It was a French horror movie about zombies. Horde. Horde with a D-E.
Horde.
Yeah. Anyways,
Okay.
very interesting concept. And it was like well done. Yeah. 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 It was pretty good. That was somebody
Now,
nominated that. Yeah.
now was this like a mid 2000s, like the French Extreme era, or was this like a little bit newer even than that?
No, I think it was mid 2000s. Yeah.
Ooh, shit. I
Yeah,
don't think I've
was
ever heard of
actually
that.
really good. It was interesting how like it starts off right away and you think that you're in this like action movie and they're like trying to like bust these guys and the cops go in and the dudes are in there and like you just hear like stuff going off in like the background and you're like clearly the apocalypse is kind of maybe happening right now, but they're just in the zone. And like all of a sudden one of the dudes gets shot and like starts turning into a zombie, and like the effects are always really good in French cinema. I don't know why, they just got really talented
Yeah.
freaking people, and like they let you see a lot. It's like,
Oh shit. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Oh, okay. I mean, that whole like era, like those, not quite 2010s, but like 2006, 2007, Alexander Aja and Xavier Gens was another. He did like
so
Frontiers.
good, yeah,
Man,
yeah.
those movies that they had coming out from then. I wish that continued. Like I've tried doing, like even like digging on my own of seeing like what happened in that time period where all these people were putting out this extreme, insane shit. Martyrs. I mean,
So
some of the
good,
things that were coming out, like it's wild. And
yeah.
and maybe I'm just not familiar. Maybe there was awesome shit even continuing to go on after that I'm not familiar with. But I'll have to check out Horde. Was that on Tubi? Was that on something else?
I think it was actually, yeah, it might still be on there, yeah,
Shit. Okay, I'm gonna have
yeah.
to pull it up.
You know, I
What
do
about
that too
bot? Oh, go
sometimes
ahead.
where I'll just like go on Google and I'll be like, all right, French horror, find me. What do I not know? You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
You have every once in a while. Like it's always that frustrating thing, but it's kind of looking through like a stack of records, or like, looking through like comics or something, where it's like, okay, same movie, same movie, same movie. Oh, what the fuck is this? Like
yeah.
that moment, and then it actually being something worth the shit. Absolute gold.
What's your
Absolute
rule
gold.
of
You can't
thumb
ask
for
more.
putting on a movie? How much time do you let it have until you give it more? You know what I mean? Like, what's your give up time?
You know, I feel like it ends up being more of like if I'm gonna decide on it, I'm gonna give it the opportunity. And I'm trying
Oh,
to think of
okay.
like examples, but I feel like there's been a few even recently where it was the last 20 minutes or some shit where finally like something clicked, or
Ooh,
maybe it was like I wasn't fully aware of what was going on, and then something was explained, or you see like a new ingredient where you're like, oh fuck, okay, this is what's going. There's been a few times like that, and I think it's kind of more over like a time period versus just having like okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna watch this, and if it sucks, well then I lost out on that couple hours.
It's
But
tough, man. It's tough.
I could say I think I'm more forgiving with film than I am like series though.
Oh,
I
that's
am not
fair.
a huge fan of like a series and every episode is an hour and it's, like The Walking Dead was really cool, like when that was first coming out, but it was just like how long can I fucking sit through this? Like this same shit is happening and like it's fine, like I appreciate, they did like cooler things and kind of had like spin-offs with like Fear the Walking Dead and but I'm just like, oh God, like I can't go on, 20 fucking hours of something and it's just not going anywhere. I like,
No.
somewhat of a, okay, it's gonna end here
Yeah.
within that day. Um,
That's fair.
what about body horror? What comes to mind from that? You
Hmm.
mentioned Cronenberg, that rascal.
Yeah, but yeah, I saw Rabid fairly young too. But like, was that really that much body horror? Like, could I say Cannibal Holocaust? I saw that super young, and that's like a lot of,
Vey. How did you
yeah.
see that super young?
I was just one of these kids who was like, I'm gonna find all the most disgusting things. And I was big into Fango. Like, I got into all those
Oh,
magazines, and I
okay.
was like, I want the cool, dark shit, you know?
Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus. I like I think of all those things too, and it was like certain video shops or different, things, but like I feel like especially anything foreign was pretty hard when I was younger. And that's just why I asked because that's awesome, like being able to see some of that stuff. But I feel like like foreign movies especially were a little bit tougher to get my hands on.
Oh man, you would have to go to like your local, we had HMV. It was like like a music store, I guess. And you'd have to go and talk to somebody and be like, "Excuse me, can you order me this film?" And they would literally have to.
Oh,
This is
okay.
pre-Amazon, pre
Sure.
eBay was like getting like into it
Hmm.
kind of thing, but yeah, I still remember going up and being like, "I'd like Cannibal Ferox, please." And they're like, "Are you over 18?" I'm like, "No, but my mom's right there." Like she approves. Like it's okay.
Did your parents ever watch any of these movies with you?
No, no. Even now, like my mom was a bit more like getting so excited, like I was getting into like the classics, like, The Shining and Halloween and things like that. Whereas like my dad's still like, you're bananas, Like every now and then I'm like, you got tons of movies downstairs. Don't be shy, guys. And they're like, no. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in discovering, this interest in loving horror movies and different things, how, I mean, maybe this is through school or maybe this is even post school, but your interest in art and how those kind of worlds collided as far as, further down the line and doing mask making, how does the interest in art go? Is that something through school that you're always very into?
Um, I was always the person at the back of the class doodling like gruesome zombies tearing each other apart. It was always a thing. Um, and they weren't good. I'm not a good drawer by like at all. Um, and then I got more into like painting and same thing. It would always be really dark things. I was into like writing dark poetry and like more like stories. And from there, it was like I got to get my hands onto clay. I got to do some like makeup effects on my own. And I was just like, hey, I want to literally learn how to make the monsters. I want to from here to here.
Did you ever
Face
make movies with friends?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, dude,
definitely. I think
have to
there's
dig
only
into that.
one right now. There's only one available right now on YouTube that you can watch. And it was pretty shit cut together. But yeah, yeah, we definitely made some fun.
That is awesome. I mean, would
Yeah.
that have been like your first time messing with effects, or were you not even fucking with any of that stuff then?
No, I was totally. It was all like I was the one going and picking up like intestines, like cow intestines, and then you fill them with gelatin, like with little jellos, and you do the color and all in there, and like we'd bite into them, and I'd have derma wax. I was a bit like this was like pre-silicone being like a big thing, so using a lot of latex and yeah, it was good
Did you
times.
have Tom Savini books?
Yeah,
Like any sort of like effects? Okay, so
but that
that was
was like
something that.
it was a bit later. So like the effects books I got more like as like collectibles like once I started going like into school. 'Cause dude,
Oh,
I
okay.
am pre-YouTube days, right? Like,
Yeah, right. That's
like
where all the questions are coming from too, because that's the same here. Is I'm like, okay, so like, how do you discover these things? Like me and my friends are like, just dig a hole and we'll bury everything but your arm and have a fake arm hanging out, and then we'll cut that off. It's like, fuck, man, don't miss.
that's it. That's it. Oh, it's so rock and roll when you do it on your own too. I love it. Now in Hollywood, they're like, It's like
Yeah.
there's so much more oomph to like
Yeah.
homemade shit.
Yeah. Please don't kill
Yeah.
me. Just don't hit me with that axe,
The
Jesus.
scream's so
Oh my
much
God.
realer, you know?
Yeah. That is awesome. I mean, I love that. Like, was this like in middle school to where you guys like were making, making movies and, just kind of having fun with that? And what was
Yeah,
maybe an effect that you were proud
I,
of?
I was really good at doing like lacerations. So like anything that was like say like a slit neck, scars, stuff like that I was really good at. Like deep cuts and like they would look real. Yeah.
Mm,
Bruising,
shit.
black eyes. I was always kind of good at that. Then like once I got into school, like I was really good at doing burns. There was like certain things I was like, ooh, I like this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned in school, are you talking like you ended up going to college, correct?
So in college, I did media arts. So I kept doing filmmaking with that. And then I
Oh,
went to
okay.
Vancouver Film School. I did like a 1 year program and it was just makeup
That's
effects.
right.
Yeah, it was wild. It was like every day, sit in a makeup chair. There you go. And it's like, oh my God. Like, what is this? Yeah.
It's insane that like stuff like that exists. I mean, like, so how long of a program was that? And like versus somebody going and having to take 100, question test, like what was your version of tests? Like what would you have to do as far as like stepping stones for, for classes?
It would be more like practical, right? So what was like I'm not a school smarts kind of human being. I'm like, give me something hands-on. I'm tactile. And this was a perfect school for that because basically you'd go in, they teach you how to do it. It would get done on you. Your partner would then do it like vice versa. You'd flip it. And then your test is doing it, say, the following day. So it was very like that freaking show Face Off, where it's like literally you get taught, you do it in the afternoon, and then the following day you have a test on it. And basically you're graded on how great was that makeup. I mean, that proves your listening skills, it proves, your brushwork, like all that stuff. So it was
Oh,
always like
shit.
that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'd heard some, like, kind of touching on some of that as far as like within interviews, and I'd always kind of wondered because I'm like, man, like that's just it's like so far from like, anything that I've ever experienced or like my friends, but like we've always talked about like, holy shit, we should fly out to California or we should go to fucking New York or like whatever, would have that. Like we're in Michigan. There's not like shit around here. Like you're not gonna have anything like that. So it's like, we
Yeah.
go and, do that. And there was a
Well, I
couple of years
remember,
ago.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I, I was just gonna say there was a couple of years ago that we were driving through and we played a show uh, in Hamilton, Ontario, and we
Okay.
saw like there was some sort of fucking like um, it was like a film like props studio. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You know what? Ontario has a lot of filmmaking. Like Toronto, Hamilton's pretty close. They have like it's Vancouver, Toronto, and then it's
Uh,
Montreal, I'd say, as like the
okay.
hubs. Yeah.
Oh shit! I just saw like that was even we were in the middle of a huge like industrial park. Like it was just all fucking plants. And then all of a sudden I looked over and it was something like film studio or prop studio. And I looked over and there's like fucking boulders and like chairs out. And I'm like, whoa! Like that shit is always so cool to me. Like my
Yeah.
eyes popping out of my head, like just of excitement to that. Now, so you end up going to school. How long of a program was
One
that?
year.
1 year,
Yeah,
okay.
it was one
And
year.
was this like within, your schooling as far as this was where the idea of mask making came into, or was there something kind of a different path that you were initially kind of taking on from being in school?
No, I had wanted to do masks before finding this school. So it was one of these things. I used to collect Michael Myers masks, And I was like, oh, I
Oh
love these
yeah.
so much. I want to learn how to make them. And I like nobody shared their secrets online.
Uh,
And there is no books at our freaking library talking about this is how you make a mask, right? So I was again a tactile person. So I was like, let me find because I'm not gonna go to film studies because they'll boot me out because everybody's seen my awful film reviews. Like I'm like a pew, and the person like died. Like I would not have survived at all. Um, but regardless, I freaking found this course and I was like, this is going to be perfect because I'll be able to learn. But I toughed it out, man, because it was a year and there's 4 semesters. Anyways, beauty, theater, effects, and then it was actual building things. So here
okay.
I am. I just want the end, right? I'm like, come on. Because I was so not into it. There was some of these girls were just like, I can't wait to like do weddings. And I'm sitting there like
Oh yeah.
tomboy as fuck, like, get me out of here. Like, yeah. But all
Jeez.
it's so bad. But all the skills, like they all joined together. You know what I mean? Even though I didn't give a shit about beauty makeup, knowing that helped me so much just with like learning how to blend skin tones with like
Mm,
my own masks and stuff like that. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was something I was going to touch on too. Was even out of having those different opportunities, did it teach you something that in the long run? But it sounds like yeah, with makeup or with different things, that pop up,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, luckily I had that training and I can not curse it now for the rest of my life and actually utilize a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, we were so fucking lucky because the school also like had a partnership with fuck, what was it called? Forget the name. Masters Effects? Yeah, Masters Effects. They're out in
Oh
Vancouver.
yeah.
And
Okay.
it was one of these things where it was like, okay, if you guys want to like try and submit and like get in, maybe you can get a what do you call it? Like a
Like
stage?
an
Yeah.
internship.
Exactly.
Okay.
So maybe
Wait,
maybe
what
you
did
can
you
get
say?
one. A stage. They don't
What is
say
that?
that. A stagiaire
No.
is the same thing. Same but different.
Is that
But
French?
I guess I don't know. A stage. They don't say that.
I don't want to look like a fucking idiot. I've never heard. I thought you said mustache at first. I was like,
It's like a stage,
okay.
but like GE. It's like saying stage, but stage.
Stage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
May-
Nice.
Maybe it
All
is
right. That
French.
sounds way cooler.
It's a
Shit. I don't know. I love
Frenchism,
it.
I guess.
Okay. Sweet.
But I was super lucky. It was me and this other girl who ended up getting it. And I was like, what are the fucking odds? Like, I mean, at the same time I was busting my ass. I was so into it.
Mhm.
And I mean, we were just basically like the bitches, going around cleaning shit, but like we got to connect and like see people and like really
Yeah.
get to like just get that vibe in a shop, Which is it was
That's
huge.
sick.
It was yeah, I loved it.
How long did that last? Was that like just like a couple of weeks as far as
Yeah.
like following around someone or
Yeah.
oh okay.
Yeah, it was a couple
Wow,
of
that's fucking
weeks kind of
awesome.
thing. Yeah, and again, how else do you really learn a job, right? It's you get in there and you watch and
Hmm.
you ask questions and yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's even cool. Like, that's just something that I appreciate so much. Like, for instance, I have a couple of nephews who are talking about like they're in a band right now and they're just about done with high school and they're being talked to about like college and all this and they're like, but I kind of want to like go and maybe travel, for a little bit and play music. I'm like, fucking do it. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
experience it. Like this is life, man. Like you don't have to make everything about work. Like or even you having that opportunity, where it's like you went to college and you went and you had this class and then ended up having a stage, if you will, which I love. I'm gonna use that forever. Jesus. Um, but that's so sick, then you get to be able to be like firsthand experiencing in it and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely I applaud that. That's incredible. I mean that they even have like that next step of like, hey, you did great. Master Effects fucking rules. They do incredible stuff. I wish I had like pulled up.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Did you have just like one person or multiple people that you kind of shadowed?
I mean, like, we were basically around the whole shop just helping out, Like, yeah, even Todd Masters, like, I remember at one point, like, literally came over and he's like, you having trouble with that? He's like helping me demold something. I'm like, oh, he's such a nice dude. Here I am, just like the stupid intern and like super rad,
So,
Like,
so sick,
yeah,
man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, So you end up making a shop, and kind of bring us back to those initial like first moments, and maybe even materials and tools. What were the first things that you kind of had on hand that really were the making or the marking point of you making this shop?
Well, what was key was having like a head bust. So it's like these cement heads that you can actually sculpt on. I was crazy enough to literally ship them back from Vancouver. I was like going up to my teachers like, psst, anybody gonna keep these heads? He's like, are you seriously gonna put that on a plane across Canada? I'm like, dude, like this is what I want to do. Like, so if you guys are just gonna toss these. So I got two of them from them, and I
Whoa.
was able to like literally start sculpting as soon as I got home. And literally, as soon as I got home, I was just like, one, I was working in a couple of shops in Montreal, kind of thing. So helping out with makeup effects behind the scenes. And on the side, I was just building up my company. So sculpting, my first sculpts were like my original Michael Myers, freaking Captain Howdy. Tarman's one of like my oldest. Ah, yeah.
So sick.
It's crazy to
God.
think, like, I remember my first Comic Con, I had four masks. People are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I make masks in the morning.
Shit. I
Yeah.
mean, was that like a positive experience as far as your first time doing a convention, or was that something that kind of like soured you of like, maybe I'll take this and have this be like an online type shop?
Oh, it was a huge, amazing experience. My first was Shockstock, and the guys at Shockstock are so fun and so accepting. It was like 2012, I
Hmm.
think, my first show. And I was terrified. I am like as like belligerent as I am and just outgoing when I'm talking about my craft and like presenting, like I poured all my heart into these
Yeah,
pieces. I get
yeah,
shy.
sure.
It's a weird moment, and I'm just like, oh, like standing around like all awkward, and like Goretta comes by from Demons. She sits down, she's like, I love these. We just start talking for like an hour, and I was like, wow.
Damn.
It's that moment where you just kind of like, who gives a fuck? Everybody's chill, like just do you. Like,
So cool. That's so cool. I mean,
yeah.
and I could see where it could be like with it being a negative experience, it could be something where it could be like really, detrimental on somebody, like so being able to have like those things, and if anything, being somebody who's taking on like a new craft, or kind of going out there, you touched on like doing this shit for you, doing it something because it's something that you love, and having that integrity behind it, and not being about the first time that you're showing it you have tons of people coming around, but then having something like Greta, like that's so sick.
Right? And it's like a lot of these
Jesus.
shows, like, man, I did so many where like I didn't sell any masks, but I met so many rad people. I got to talk about it. I got to share my work. And from there, it's like the ball rolls, right? It's just,
That's so crazy.
yeah, it's like never get upset, just enjoy the experience.
Sure. Sure. That's
Hmm.
that's awesome. I mean, so you were touching on those three. Like, what would you say, if you could say three of your masks that have been maybe even your favorite? I mean, I'm assuming probably Halloween because that was an early inspiration of what it was that you were, wanting. But over the years, if you can, maybe mention, or maybe even it's something to where like they turned out just better than what you were expecting. Something, kind of was giving you a hard time with it. Maybe give us a couple of your favorites.
So I kind of pulled some out here. I should,
Sweet.
you know what? Let me just grab them so you can see them closer.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
All right. I put my little
Full
earbuds
setup.
back in.
All right.
Pardon me if you saw my butt. I don't think you did, though. I think we're good. Sorry,
Yeah.
Instagram, not sorry.
We can edit it out. It's fine.
You edit it in.
For the kids.
I love it. Okay, so I would have to say, not my favorite, but my favorite like
Oh
challenge
man.
was the chatter. Because honestly, making this dude was so complicated. I just didn't know how I was gonna wire it all together. I took so
Fuck.
long to sculpt it. I wanted it to be perfect. And I'm so happy like with how it turned out in terms of detailing, the placement, like literally having fish hooks in here. I the amount of times I was sitting there and I was like, I'm stuck. There's just like fish hooks like all over me. So like it's and it's always so terrifying. Like when you go to pick something that's already a character, you want to make sure you ace it because everybody knows what it looks
Right.
like.
Hmm.
So it's like that
Yep.
moment where it's like you're almost tougher on yourself than making something original.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Okay.
if that makes
Man.
sense.
No, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I gotta say, my number one is my split mask. I love my
That's
split
so
dude.
sick.
I like, you remember there's so many pictures of him, the man who laughs. No.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's like the grimace that I kind of like. I was using pictures of him to go off
Oh,
of.
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
And then he's got his wild side and his like serious side. It doesn't look like much on here, but honestly, when it's on, it's terrifying. Yeah, he's my little maniac. And then
Love that.
it did like, and I
Awesome.
remember it was such a bitch because again, you get into designing something and you don't think about everything. Sewing this guy up takes so long, like so
Now,
long.
was it initially poured into two different pieces and you were sewing it, or was it all one cohesive piece that you
And
were
then you
having?
slice it up. Yeah. So it's one
Oh,
cohesive
okay.
piece, and then you got to kind of cut it slowly. Because I've done that where I'm like, well, let me just cut all this, and then you're like sewing and like because it's flexible, right? So like the shape starts to warp, and you're like, oh, fuck. But that's it. You learn as you go, right? Like a lot of the time. And then my glass
Man,
go. He's probably like one of my
so
favorites.
sick. That
He's
is fucking
spooky.
badass.
Yeah, he's a scary dude. He's a spooky dude. Yeah, and this one,
No.
like, whoa, his design like shifted so much. I've actually been trying to get all the videos done, but I've been wanting to do videos of behind the scenes of different masks because obviously I have pictures
I
of
was just
everything.
gonna ask. Okay.
Yeah, but that's one dude who I'm going to be doing soon to show you guys because that one went from a full over the head to having stitches like everywhere to just a half. It was one of these things. I had stitches going up the eyes, I had stitches coming down here, I had the Glasgow smile, and then I was like, let me have it stitched down here. And I just remember looking at it. It was we had gotten back from our trip in Mexico when COVID just began, and I was just like, ugh. Like sometimes you look at something like a piece of art and you're just like, I'm not, no, let's go. Let's reset. Be like, restart. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was gonna ask if there's ever been anything that you've like filmed as far as even for your own, just to kind of see the start to end, process of something.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been making like a fair bunch of those like along the way. But like, I'm talking like
Okay.
early photos, like early
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like, that's it. I'm gathering it all. Because
Oh, okay, got
yeah,
you.
because it's so fun to show. Like I've made my Jeepers Creepers mask so many times now, but how many people have actually seen the sculpture of it? How many people
Yeah,
have actually
right.
seen that mold making of it? Probably not many, unless you've been following me for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and now I think of it too, like you have the what the fuck is the term for it? The like sped up videos of
yes,
like
time
pouring and then
lapses.
kind of yeah, the time lapses. Okay, right.
Hmm.
And you do have those on your page too, to where like that's along the same lines as far as having, like a documentation of something from start to finish. So it's just so cool, like, and I think yourself along with me, like we're just those types of people where it's like, okay, this is sick. How the fuck did it get there?
Yeah.
Where was the paint process? Where was it? Like even something like these old like Ben Cooper masks, it's like,
Ooh.
where did those start? Like who, discovered on like the neon paints of them, like just different shit like that to where, I'm enamored with the process. So, and that's such a cool thing with like following you and, being able to like have this opportunity and us talking like over the years, just out of the fact of like, I love seeing this stuff and I love seeing like the physical like aspect of it and how the fuck is it made. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mentioned asking about that. I'm like, oh yeah, you have like the time lapses and different things Of course you're fucking documenting this shit. Duh. No shit. You're one of us.
It's just, sometimes it's not linear. And I'm sure the algorithm would love me more if I did it linear, but I'm like, that's not how life works. Like
No,
sometimes
no.
I'm doing like 8 things at the same time. So you're going to see it gradually come out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. What is there any like have you had any times as far as happy accidents? Something along the lines, maybe something that you were far down the line on a project and you were sculpting and you're kind of doing something and then maybe it tipped over or your fucking dog steps on it or and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this is awesome. I don't know what happened, but this I appreciate it. Has anything like that ever happened in your process?
Absolutely. I feel like my happy accidents are always when I'm like splattering blood everywhere because you never know which way it's going to go.
Oh.
You never
Yeah,
know.
okay.
And it's like, woo, all right. Like, I guess we're rolling with that. Yeah. Or like,
Okay. All
same with
right.
like my Glasgow masks. I make like the clown versions of them. And
Oh
it
yeah.
was like, I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'd really like some like black blood coming down. And it was one of these moments where I'm just like, oh, just do it. It was like, sploosh. And I'm like, well, it's gonna have to work. Like, I'm not gonna sit there
It
and
works
paint it
now.
off. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus. I
Yeah.
I always wonder something like that, especially with like being able to interview anybody on here who makes physical things and, having a process like how yours is and getting just maybe the eighth step out of 10 as far as, finally finishing it and fucking something up. Has that stumbled across your way, unfortunately, at any
Oof.
point where you're like, man, I was almost done and I have to start all the way over?
Absolutely, it's happened to me. It's happened to me multiple times, but that's why I'm one of these people where I'll never put a mask for sale on my site unless it's physically done, unless it's done, which is
Yeah.
probably,
Okay.
which is probably a bad habit. But until, like I could probably get so many more sales that way. Like right now, I have so many masks that are done, but I'm like, let me have the final look over because I hate that feeling. I hate like being under that pressure of like, shit, I have to look over this like 6 more times just in case
Yeah.
there is something.
But
Because, yeah.
I think like with our following, I feel like there's like something where there's like that unforgivingness of like, ooh, nobody else has this one.
Oh, that's true. True that. But I don't know. When it's something that like I can see and with like the eye of a collector, you would know this. We look at things and we're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like that perfection issue, when you're just like,
Yeah.
no.
The OCD behind things. I know I certainly like I have that same like attention to detail with things and I would never but it's been through actually talking to a couple of people where they're like, "Hey, I just post up, underneath in captions saying that XYZ is different about this. I initially didn't have this for sale because of this. Just buyer, be warned." And people are like,
Yeah,
"Oh shit, nobody else has this," and I'm like, I guess I never thought of that
that's
before. Like I just hear
true.
or think of an imperfection, but collectors who have other things are like, nobody else is ever going to have this, and it wasn't initially the way that they intended it. And then don't necessarily have to have it in your stock anymore.
That's absolutely true. You're right. You're right.
Maybe a
Yeah.
equal handshake.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I do. See you later. Never
Oh,
know. Never know.
love that.
Who knows? But I do see your angle with it though too. I feel like maybe that would be something I would be a little bit closer to if I were doing the same thing too. Um, just to kind of wrap here, this has absolutely been ridiculously fun. We could probably go on for hours. I don't want to take up your whole afternoon here though. And just touching on a couple of uses of your favorite masks throughout film. So we've talked about
Ooh.
Halloween, but maybe even a couple obscure, masks that you've seen throughout the years in movies. What comes to mind as far as some movies that a mask, maybe the movie even sucks, but you saw something you're like, oh, that is fucking cool.
Okay, well, I have to say Leatherface. I'm a big fan, right?
Yeah,
The OG Leatherface.
the
Oof.
first. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, which one though?
The 74. The like first mask,
No,
not
like
the
which
pretty
mask?
lady, not the pretty
Okay.
lady one. His
Okay.
classic little yellowish, leatherish mask. with those like
Grotesque.
warped lashes. I love it. I would have to say Tourist Trap. That's a
Oh
fucking
man,
weird face he wears, you know?
so creepy.
Yeah, yeah. Stage
E-
Fright. I don't know if you've seen that one. M-
For whatever reason, the remake comes to mind, and I'm trying to think of the older.
Michelle Sayovi, Michael Sayovi or whatever. With it's a giant owl. It's a
Oh
giant
yeah,
owl
yeah, yeah.
costume.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So
terrifying.
sick. I'll have to watch that movie again. I have it, and I
Oh,
just I can't remember it for some reason. I was trying to look. Yeah, okay, the owl. Thing's fucking
we're
wicked.
sitting there at the end. He's just like, "Oh, it's like what just happened?" Yeah,
That is so rad. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, any sort of like costume or any sort of different thing. Even a movie like I was trying to kind of conjure up a couple. The Collector. You ever seen that movie?
I
The
did.
newer?
That was actually a pretty good movie. Yeah, yeah,
Surprisingly so. And the
yeah.
mask, like the whole kind of leather like wrap with the really small like beady. I don't know if they were red or whatever eyes. I was like, oh shit, that's fucking rad.
Yeah, the concept they had was solid. You're right.
I thought that was a cool movie for sure. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Did you have any others that come to mind? Pretty wicked. What would you say is your favorite Friday the 13th if you had to choose any of those?
I've never been that big into the Fridays. I won't lie. Don't judge me.
Oh boy. All
Like
right. Well,
part
that's been our
four,
time. See you
part
later. No.
like part four is pretty cool. Like the
It
OG is
is.
pretty cool.
I love it.
If I
All right.
wanted like a hawk mask, I'd probably be like, "Can you paint it turquoise and purple like the Vidya game?"
Oh, yeah.
I'd be
Yes.
that guy.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I
yeah,
I honestly I always thought the blue one was cool. People
yeah.
hate on part five, and it wasn't actually. Well, I don't know if you've. It's not much of a spoiler. The movie came out in fucking 80 or whatever, in the 80s,
I'll
but
still
it
watch
wasn't
it.
actually. Yeah. Oh well, then maybe I won't spoil it. It's rad. It's notably known as the movie that doesn't actually have Jason in it.
No,
So it's somebody else, but he has like the hockey mask and it's blue instead of the red marks on it. And I've always thought that was like pretty sick, and the movie's pretty sweet too. If you ever get around to watching it, it's sick.
yeah, I gotta have a Friday marathon. I think I'm overdue. I think it's time.
I think
With
so.
this
I think
disappointment,
so.
you're like, oh,
It'll come around at some point. And there's supposed to be a new one like in the making. So
oh,
they have like a TV series or some shit going on for Hulu.
no way. I know they came out with a new video game. I was wanting to try that out.
Oh man, it's so sick.
Oh
I
yeah.
spent
Uh,
too many nights with that. I'm not even really like a video game guy, but that game was absolutely fucking awesome. It's cool.
nice.
Yeah, very cool. So what do you have coming up as far as on your schedule? Do you have some cons coming up? I know you have obviously reviews and you have different things as far as videos. What's coming up for you?
So far, for me, the only con that I've signed into is Frightmare in the Falls. So Niagara Falls,
Oh,
Ontario. Oh, it's a good one. It's right before Halloween, and it's basically I think they're doing 3 days this time instead of just two. And it's so fun because Niagara Falls is just a weird little town, dude, and like there's tons of like those haunted houses, and like it feels like a carnival. It's a weird little town, but yeah, and it's
it's
right before
awesome.
Halloween, so I'm stoked for that. So basically, I'm just focused. My whole goal was make 15 new masks. So far, I've
Oh,
molded
man.
two. Yeah, and like
Okay.
right now, I still like I have four of them on there just sitting around like, hey Vicky, hey Vicky. I'm like, okay,
Man.
yeah. So
Do
that's
you do
the
you ever
goals.
get that tourist trap vibe of like walking into your studio there and just feeling like it's like all of these
They're all
masks that are
looking at
going to
me.
turn at one point and look, oh my
It's
god, that you turning that camera creeped me the fuck out, and I never have thought of that until right now.
it gets
It's
worse than that. Sometimes I'll be sitting here and because they're like the majority of them they're on styrofoam or plastic, and the slightest nudge and they'll just go boop like fall over. So there's moments right where you're just like, oh, okay.
fuck no, no way.
It's
This
something you like you get used to, but you don't get used to. Does that make sense?
no. No, there there are certainly things like just from watching horror movies that I'm like, I'm not fucking even walking in that room. I'm not going down that hall. Like, it's not happening.
Nope.
Somebody's down there stealing all of our shit. Well, then I'll call the police and we'll be somewhere within the rest of the night. But
Like, I'll be
oh,
over here.
that's yeah, no, that is absolutely awesome, Vicky. This has been so much fun.
Oh,
Thank you so
same.
much for being patient and finally getting to do this. This has been absolutely radical. I fucking love it, man. Anytime you need help with anything, or anytime that you are wanting to jump on again and promote something, please let me know. This has been fucking great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Honestly, you're good vibes.
Very fun, very fun. Well, you take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck. I can't wait to see what's new and upcoming from you.
Hell yeah, my dude. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
It's so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy, yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.